Good evening. It's March 13th. This is Nutball Cop. Just went down a big rabbit hole in the financial news, and I did notice a trend. All of a sudden, CNBC, Forbes, Fox Business News, Barron's, they're all getting a little nervous about what dear leader porn star Humper wants as an economy and what he wants as a system of governance and social support. And I'm sure many of you saw the video that Elon Musk declares that he is going to end Social Security. He's an unelected bureaucrat, something the Republicans have been complaining about for 30 years. That doesn't bother him all of a sudden. He's going to cut Social Security out and stop the checks because it's all a Ponzi scheme. We all heard that, right? Okay. So let's go into a little of investigative mode here on Chat GTP4, a paid edition. And I started doing a little research and, of course, asked it as part of my long-term memory. I always ask it to give me the links and document the sources it's referencing so I can take a look at them as well. Where I start off, I said, which states have the highest concentration of retired seniors on Social Security? Okay. By far, that's Maine and Florida. Okay. Now, actually, Texas and California actually have a higher number, total integer count of Social Security retirees, but the question I was asking was the highest concentration. So if we take California and Texas, which has the most count, and then we take the ones with the highest concentration, so a total of 7 states, what would happen if Elon Musk's dreams come true of making American lives absolutely fucking miserable? Because that is their goal. We are now the enemy. ISIS is not the enemy. The cartels are not the enemy. Bin Laden and Al Qaeda are not the enemy. North Korea, China, Russia, not the enemy. The working American family is now the enemy of the United States government. So, when Nazi Elmo gets his way, okay, and they end Social Security. Now, this is not that hard to figure out, considering it's the number one retiree state in the union, is Florida's real estate market simply collapses, okay? Places like the Villages, the world's largest retirement village, I guess you can call it a private town if you want, Naples, Saratoga, West Palm Beach, most of Central Florida, where it's still relatively inexpensive to live, those whole areas just get wiped out. Okay, now this is funny how dear leader porn star Humper and Nazi Elmo have no problem submarining Florida and their leader Ron DeSantis. They had no problem whatsoever in completely screwing him over and screwing over the residents of Florida. They have no problem with it. Now you go up to Maine, which is kind of a reddish leaning state, I guess, even though they kind of switched leadership lately, because they had Paul LePage, who was a fucking whack job. Yeah, they're the number 2 concentration. They're going to get hit. They're going to get hit hard. Okay. West Virginia, there's no resiliency in West Virginia. You're one of the poorest states in the union. You've been ripped off by the oligarchic owners of your coal industry. You've been left to rot, unable to pay for your rental payment or your note payment on your mobile home or your pickup truck, and you're going to get fucking hammered. Now, West Virginia gets hammered for a special reason because, they have just a huge aging population. It's a high-age state, and they're going to get crushed. The only solid blue state here is Vermont in this list. They're going to get hit, but, they'll make it through. The rural areas will be hit a little harder than the couple of cities in Vermont, but they will weather the storm. Montana, everything outside of Bozeman and Whitefish gets destroyed. And when I mean gets destroyed, it's not just the housing, it's all the revenue for the counties in that area. So, you're not going to have schools for your grandkids. You're not going to have hospitals for yourself and your family. Montana basically gets a rural wipeout from Social Security going away. Texas is the behemoth right now. It's the center of the 21st century manufacturing. It will take a hit, but the huge cities and the oil industry and the emerging tech industry, plus the resurgence of manufacturing in Texas, they'll weather it through. California, it's really going to land in the farming communities. That's everywhere in the Central Valley, from like Stockton all the way down to Imperial Valley. What is it? The county, Imperial County, California, way down south in the desert, into the farmlands. They're going to get hit pretty hard. But again, California can weather it. Now, the big thing here is, Florida is going to take it in the head from this, because they are a high tourism, high expendable income from their seniors. They're very reliant on Social Security. Florida, if Musk's dreams come true of making American lives poor and miserable and unable to live indoors, Florida is going to take the brunt of the hit here. Then I asked it a question about, Texas. It's the 20th century manufacturing hub, and Sal from 2010, the sequel to 2001: A Space Odyssey. Hal 9000's sister, Sal, lived at Urbana-Champaign University, and one of the scenes, Sal, voiced by Meredith Baxter, is talking to the professor. So I call ChatGPT Sal sometimes. Retired areas would take a hit. Most of the state would be okay. Long term, they'd be fine. Florida's real estate market is totally Social Security dependent. There's a huge retiree population. The retiree population, the entire home property values are buttressed by Social Security and Medicare coverage, so they're not spending money on healthcare and pharma and stuff like that. That's being insured by these programs. Once that goes away, it all comes out of pocket, and they won't have money to spend on housing, nor will they have money to spend on housing infrastructure, senior housing infrastructure. That's your at-home nursing, your assisted living, and all that kind of stuff. If you were to eliminate it overnight, then the crash would be epic. You would take out 5 major areas in Florida, plus most of Central Florida, where, like I said, it was still cheap to live. This is a huge point, HOA fees, cost of living expenses. Remember, the tariffs on Europe now are going to raise your generic drug prices anywhere between 25 and 80%. So every cost of going to the doctor or going to the pharmacy is going to skyrocket this year. Your HOA fees in Florida are a nightmare. The building collapse in Florida, the condo collapse that killed all the people, that's caused a red tag wave and an affordability wave and a special assessment waves and the condo projects and these communal living environments in Florida. They are just going to not be able to take the hit if you also take away Social Security. Okay, their special assessment and their HOA insurance and their own private insurance, all those increases are almost wiping them out as it is. Plus the cost of living. You take away their Social Security check, it's a fail. You're at failure point. It's going to crash. And exactly what I predicted is you're going to have a mass dump of homes in Florida. It's going to be a complete fire sale. We'll get to the numbers of the fire sale shoe. Anybody with any region with a senior population, it doesn't matter if it's ownership or rental, you're going to get creamed, because if they're renting, the big part of that rental payment is coming from a Social Security check. All that extra spending they get from their retirements, their 401ks, and then Social Security, all that evaporates. Statewide, senior homeownership is the highest, but they mostly still carry mortgage debt. This isn't my parents or my grandparents, where they had a mortgage paper burning party by the time they were 50. That's not a thing for most families anymore. So once they don't get their Social Security check, they can't pay their rent, they can't pay their mortgage, they can't pay their HOA fees. You could see house prices estimated losses at 40 to 50%. You could see closing of the senior infrastructure in mass, massive rental evictions. We know they love rental evictions in the red states and with the hardcore MAGA politicians. They love kicking people out into the street. So this will make them happy. Tourism takes a massive hit. Service industry, restaurants all take a massive hit. Mortgage crisis because everybody goes into default all of a sudden because they're already under pressure. It would be a catastrophe. The verdict here is catastrophic collapse is not an exaggeration. Florida would experience a financial crisis on a level unseen since the Great Depression. Okay, this is envelope. This is back of envelope, but if you're anywhere in that neighborhood, you're screwed. Florida is absolutely fucked. Okay, now the GDP impact on Florida. These are all estimates again, back of envelopes, but I mean they're sorting through a couple of good sources here. The source data is decent, so take these as round figures. But when you start putting all these negatives in a line, you're in for some real bad times in Florida. Okay. 21% of your GDP goes into a permanent decline. You have a structural collapse of healthcare and social assistance. You have a major downturn in hospitality, which includes restaurants, hotel, leisure, tourism. Your retail paid, you get a spending shock. No one's going to go to the store with money to spend. They don't have any expendable cash. They don't have any discretionary income. It's all going to go to bare necessities and housing once Social Security's gone. Then the local banks get into trouble. That's obvious. Construction freezes because you're going to have a housing glut all of a sudden in Florida. And then you're going to have a budget crisis in the government because they don't have any damn tax revenue. Okay. How bad of a tax revenue? Well, it could get ugly. It could get ugly. You could talk in between $1 and $2 trillion, just blowing away economic growth. Again, even if we were talking about shrinking at 25%, you're talking a recession far greater than what happened during the credit crisis of 2007, 2009, the mortgage fuck up, Lehman Brothers. Yeah, you're into nightmare territory. Okay, even if it's half that number, you're in nightmare territory. Okay, here's a fact: Florida is simply too dependent on Social Security. Okay, now they don't have a diverse economy like California or Texas or New York, and they're highly retiree dependent. They have one of the second highest per capita populations of seniors on Social Security in the country. And it would lead to a mass of foreclosures, healthcare services just disappearing from Florida. Now, here's where they really, really, really get in trouble. Now, one of the cheapest places to live on the East Coast, let's go back up here to our states that we looked at, okay? One of the cheapest states to live in on the East Coast is West Virginia. But here's the problem, West Virginia. They simply don't have the senior health care and service infrastructure Florida has. Not even close. Now, what do you do when all these seniors bail on Florida because they literally don't have a place to live? Okay? They've been foreclosed on. They've been evicted. They literally can't afford Florida anymore. Their whole retirements are ruined. So where are they going to head? The cheapest spots in the country. West Virginia, Montana. But do you see the problem? West Virginia and Montana is going to be another hot zone for recession, if not depression, because they just gutted the senior economy. Not to mention the moral implications of just getting rid of Social Security. That's a landmine field of problems for ethics and moral. I've talked about this before. Wrote about it, and I think I spoke about it before. That there's about 2 million, last time I read, people in nursing homes, seniors that have no family. They completely subsist on Social Security and Medicare. When you just cancel Social Security and you turn the phones off at SSA, that happened today or yesterday. They literally just turn the phones off. so nobody can get Social Security assistance. So when those checks stop, when those people don't have anything because their entire sustenance is based on Social Security, for better or worse, whether you agree with Social Security or not, I don't care at this moment. I'm talking about the ethics of the situation where you rip out the only money these people have. They have no family. And what happens? We're going to be pushing 70, 80-year-old seniors, frickin' octogenarians, nonagarians, out of the nursing home, onto the sidewalk, and roll the wheelchair down the sidewalk and say, good luck to you, folks. You'll need it. Now, of course, back of envelope again, half these people are probably under serious daily, if not more, medical care. You put that many people on the street, half of them are going to die in the first week. The other half's going to end up at the homeless encampments. Oh, then they're going to end up in city jails because even the quote-unquote liberal California cities are all now passing laws. If you're out on the street at night, they're going to arrest you and throw you in jail if you don't go into one of the forced housing units. Okay? So, yeah. If the nationalists get their way, theocratic nationalists or the nationalist accelerations that are teaming up to form the MAGA-tard movement, if they get away, you're talking about a death toll that's going to be worse than the wars we have fought in this country. All to pretend we're saving money. We're not saving any money. We spent money that billionaires refuse to pay into the system to help pay for it. That's our problem right now. Since the 1980s and Ronald Reagan, they've cut taxes, and then turned around and built an 880-ship Navy. Then they built $1.5, $1.7 trillion worth of aircraft, F-35s, F-22s. They went into multiple foreign wars. Okay? Tax break after tax break after tax break after tax break. Yet every year when they get into the budget negotiations in Congress, they get those spending bills scored. And they're scored as if Elon Musk and the rest of the billionaire oligarch class are paying their taxes. And as we learned today from that release, Tesla's paid 0% 2 out of the last 3 years. Okay? A Musk rate somewhere floats around 0 to 3.5%. Your taxes are 40, 50%. Theirs are near zero. Okay? So to keep their near zero tax rate, the fraud they've been running since Ronald Reagan, they're going to push people out on the street, watch them lose their homes, cause Florida to go into an economic crisis, if not a collapse. So Elon Musk doesn't have to pay taxes. Donald Trump doesn't have to pay taxes. Harlan Crow, Peter Thiel, Mark Andreessen, the billionaire class just doesn't want to pay taxes. They haven't been paying any taxes. And instead of paying into the system and getting us out of the morose, because they're the ones, the only ones with money left, the American working family is tapped out. You're even hearing this in Home Depot, Target, McDonald's quarterly reports. The consumer is tapped out. Okay, so the only money left in the country is with the billionaires. They don't want to pay any taxes. They've never paid into Social Security. Social Security caps out as an income. You have to be collecting a paycheck to pay Social Security tax or the equivalent self-employment tax. But if you're receiving a proceed, a dividend, you don't pay SSA. You don't pay FICA. Okay, so even if they did pay FICA, it stops at $168,000 a year. When you're making hundreds of millions or $1 billion or $52 billion a year, like the way Musk wanted to get paid in that payout fraud at Tesla, which the court shut down, he doesn't pay a dime of FICA. So he wants to get rid of Social Security, even though him and none of the oligarchs have ever paid a dime into Social Security. You have. It's your money. It's my money. It's my family's money. We paid into the system. And they've told us for 75 years we had to, by force of law, pay in this system. Now they're just going to pull it so they don't have to pay any taxes whatsoever. Never mind, they've never paid Social Security. Okay? And the result is pushing seniors out on the streets to watch them die. Family values. God bless America. Whatever, assholes. Until next time, think about it.